If I had been a better cellist, I would have maybe become a professional musician, but when I started university and when I eventually became a historian, I always thought for opportunities working on music or music-related topics as a historian. The way we talk about opera and the way we present it in our program booklets reinforces then national stereotypes. People go to the opera house with the expectation that it should all be about learning about Italianness or expecting something particularly German or English or French. But this is not what opera is about. One of the operas we easily associate with nationalism is Giuseppe Verdi's Nabucco. Culture and music and opera always were very political, but they were not always necessarily used for nationalistic means. When we think about Wagner today, it's very difficult not to think about Hitler in Bayreuth. Wagner was not the most important composer in many respects for Nazi Germany. The opera composer most frequently performed in Nazi Germany was not Richard Wagner, but Giuseppe Verdi. People increasingly constructed Verdi as an icon of the Italian national movement. In the sources of reception, from the time when Nabucco was first performed in 1842 at La Scala, there's just no evidence that anybody understood that opera at that time in a national key as a contribution to the national movement. It was part of a European tradition of music theatre, and that's what people liked about Verdi's music. In the 1850s, when the piano increasingly arrived in middle-class homes, that was also the period where often exactly timed with the premiere of a work of opera, piano reductions and other versions for the piano were sold, sometimes even within the opera house, so that people could listen to the same music at home. Sometimes you had people sitting in a performance, drafting it quickly, doing a new orchestration of it and performing it somewhere else. And there started to be international copyright agreements or rights of performance for operatic works, but not every state in the Italian peninsula signed them. It's interesting that so many opera houses were actually built in the classical or neoclassical style. It was exactly because for people in the 19th century, music and opera had a universal value to it, and that's why they chose a classical style for architecture. We know very little about Meyerbeer today, but throughout the 19th century, he was the composer most frequently performed all over Europe. And one of the reasons why he appealed to audiences and critics and to people involved in performing opera is because they thought about him, they perceived his work as a musical language that speaks across national boundaries.